Hello everybody, welcome to Takeover Tuesday. If you don't know me, I'm Shane Warren, and every single Tuesday I try to bring you an episode, unless I'm traveling around the world somewhere, where we lift your level of leadership to a higher place. And so this is a heart-to-heart talk with those of you guys who are leaders. I want to thank you for tuning in. For those of you who are watching my channel for the first time, please subscribe, like. I know you hear that from every single podcaster that does a show on YouTube, but we really want you to do that. And we also want you to share everything, because I've got something that I'm going to pour into you over the next 3 Tuesdays. And so you're going to see me in this same color shirt sitting right here for 3 Tuesdays. Not because I waited 3 weeks and wore the same shirt every time, but because I'm in a studio and I'm filming, and I want to make sure that I get this concise and teach this right. The teaching that I'm about to do for you right now is, in my opinion, the most important teaching that I have ever done. Now, I'm going to give you a background of how I came into what I'm going to teach today. I love to watch sci-fi movies. I love to watch things like Dateline. I love to watch murder mysteries and thrillers to try to figure out who's doing what. And the other night I was watching one, and it was very detailed. It was like a 2-hour special that was being done. And I don't want to say the name because I don't want to do some copyright infringement and cause this to be shut down before it gets started. But what was so interesting about this is at a certain point, how they solved the mystery is they did an autopsy of the dead body of the person that was murdered. And as soon as I was watching this, I know, as weird as it sounds, something welled up within my heart and my mind, and he said, it is so sad to see the death of leadership. There are murders happening to leaders. Leaders are being murdered. And he said, you ought to teach everybody on your leadership channel about the death of a leader. And in order for us to do that, we got to do an autopsy of a dead leader. So for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to be teaching on the autopsy of a dead leader. And what we're about to do, as gruesome as it may sound, we're about to literally start dissecting the body of a dead leader and find out what is it that's killing their influence. There are many leaders that are watching me right now, and some that are watching the future. And here's the truth. The truth is, your influence is dying. You're dying. Your influence, your leadership, your effectiveness is dying. And I can't tell you how it grieves my heart and hurts me so bad to know great leaders. I'm talking about really exceptional leaders that they're dying and they don't even realize it. Their organization are dying, and they see the numbers, but it's almost like they live in a different world. It's like they have to disconnect from that. So let's look at a cadaver. Let's look at somebody who has died the death of leadership. And we got to find out what is it that killed them, so that we can get to the murderer. Now, I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. We know who the murderer of every leader is. The Bible says in John 10:10, the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. See, here's the truth. If he can steal your influence, he can kill your leadership. And if he can kill your leadership, every organization rises and falls on great leaders. And so therefore, what happens is he can destroy your organization. I'm here to help you and myself never be one of his murder victims. And I think the best way to apprehend the murderer is to do an autopsy of a murder victim to figure out what he did and how he killed them so that it doesn't happen to us. So I want to start out by just sharing some things that I penned down for you. So from time to time you'll see me looking at my iPad, but really these things are coming from my heart. Some leaders lose influence and they never notice. For me, this is one of the biggest things that I could talk about in this episode. Great leaders who outlast the storms and are successful to the end, great leaders, they do self-assessment all the time. They're self-aware. They don't lie to themselves about where they are and where their organization is. And I just want to, before I plow into this, I want you to understand that most leaders, they don't lose their influence overnight. It's not a sudden thing, it's a subtle thing. It happens one step at a time. But without trying to offend you, but speaking as frankly as I know how to you leaders, what I see is men and women who think they're great in their own mind. And you don't know how many places that I go and help consult their church, or pastors that I talk to, corporate leaders who come to me for advice, and I will start asking them questions, and they'll actually make the statement that they think they're a great leader. I mean, I know pastors who think they are incredible leaders and they don't pastor more than 100 people. Now, I'm not knocking 100 people. I've been there and done that. And I value every size church along the way. But they think in their mind they're like speaking to tens of thousands of people. And then they'll say, would you look at my YouTube channel, or would you look at my Facebook page? Would you watch my message? And there's like nobody watching their videos. And yet, if you talk to them in their mind, it's almost like a psychosis or something of leadership that sets in on them, and they think they are great in their own mind. So leader, before I go any further, you've got to become self-aware. You've got to be honest with you. And so you can't just keep leading meetings, keep going through the motions, and expect your leadership to advance and to excel. Even if you get applause from people. I just want to tell you, when you strip it all away, what I see when I look at organizations that are dying and leaders that are dying and they don't even know it, is there's a real absence of power, there's an absence of presence, and eventually it leads to an absence of purity, and the destruction just sets in. Again, this isn't something that happens overnight. It is subtly. So I'm trying, as raw and as real as I know how, in the most authentic way as I know how, from one leader to the heart of another leader, to challenge you today to look at yourself in some reality. And so I'm going to help you do that by doing an autopsy of your dead leadership, your dead organization. If you and I were really wise, we would learn from the wreckage of all of these ministries and organizations that have went before us. The problem is we're repeating the same mistakes that many of them have made as well. And you will be hard-pressed to find very few leaders who ascended to a place of greatness but maintained it to the end. My prayer is that God will help me to be one of those leaders that makes it all the way to the end. I want to finish strong. I want to finish like the Apostle Paul said when he said, I'm ready to be poured out, because he had literally finished strong as a leader. And leader, let me tell you, it's not nearly as important how you begin. What's really important is how you end. So I cut open the cadaver of a dead leader, and let me tell you the first thing I find. I find an ego that swelled, and I found accountability had shrunk. If you're taking notes, you need to write that down. This is the first step to the death of your leadership. Your ego swells and accountability shrinks. So let me just say to you, the beginning of the end for most leadership is not normal failure. It's mirror failure. Let me explain what I mean by that. It's not moral failure in that they commit some great sin. That usually comes later. Again, there's an absence of presence and an absence of purity that sets in, and this takes place subtly. But how it happens is your death, the death of leadership, doesn't happen with a moral failure. It happens with a mirror failure first. Again, they stop seeing themselves clearly, and they stop looking at their organizations clearly. I am amazed at the ego of leaders, and God forbid that I would ever go there. God, I pray that the Lord would take me to heaven before I ever get there. They live behind this facade of greatness that is in their mind, and yet nobody's listening, nobody's even watching. I was listening to a podcaster the other night, and they were talking about a pastor, and this pastor is world famous to me. World famous. If I called his name, those of you in the church community would know who he is. He's world famous to me. This podcaster is saying, I've never even heard of this individual. And it set in on me. The great majority of the world doesn't know who any of us as pastors or spiritual leaders are. And we kind of in our mind think that we're kind of like Elvis, that everybody is watching us and listening to us. And the truth of the matter is they're not. So the first thing I've got to do is I've got to help you because I don't want your ego to kill you. You see, when ego swells, leaders start believing that they're the exception to every single rule in their organization. They start to resist correction, and they stop asking questions that lead to discoveries that help them change and to go to another level. Here's one of the biggest things I see. Their giftedness tricks them into believing that they're above accountability. Leader, in this first episode today, do not let your giftedness trick you into believing that you're above accountability. Charisma can grow and character can shrink at the same time. And it is such a dangerous dilemma for us to fall into. So you'll hear these kinds of leaders start saying things like this, and I hope you've never said anything like this. They'll start saying things like, I've learned this, or I've earned this, I've earned this, I deserve more space. People don't understand my pressure. You'll hear them talking like that. It becomes very self-absorbed. What that's saying is your ego is growing, your accountability is shrinking. I am personally tired of dealing with preachers who act like they're rock stars, who have to have an entourage, arrive in the best Escalade or Bentley that money can buy. I'm not against prosperity. I'm not against blessing. I'm against the facade of this whole game. We're not Hollywood. We're leaders. They have to be guarded by ushers and security people that won't even let people come to them. And none of this models what Jesus did as a leader. But these leaders have allowed giftedness to trick them into thinking that they're above all accountability and they actually deserve the position that they're in, that they've actually earned it. In Deuteronomy, God makes a great warning. He says, don't let Don't let your mind deceive you, and this is the Shane Warren Hillbilly version. Don't let your mind deceive you into thinking that your great power got you this wealth. In other words, you didn't get this because of you. Every blessing in life comes from God, and we as leaders need to remember that. So let me give you a truth. This is something that I want you to remember today. The higher you go, the more accountable you've got to become. Not less accountable, the more accountable. So I want to leave you today with this challenge. I want you right now, on your phone, on a notepad, somewhere, I want you to ask yourself this question. Who are 3 people in your life right now that can call you on the carpet? They can listen to something you say, they can see something you do, and they can yank your chain of accountability. Because if you don't have 2 or 3 people in your life that's holding you accountable, you already got 1 foot in the grave. And I don't want to see you die the death of leadership. Well, we've just begun the autopsy. I've just cut this cadaver open. Trust me, you don't want to miss any segment of this. It might take me more than 3 minutes. You don't want to miss any teaching of this, because I don't want you to die the death of leadership. And the last one is going to shock you. So make sure you stay all the way to the end. Whatever you do, like, subscribe, share with your friends and family. God bless you. I'll see you next Tuesday for Takeover Tuesday. Go take over the world.